Hello, everybody. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. Yesterday, if you missed our show yesterday, we broke down the Deshaun Watson ruling. That video is somewhere on our website, on our Facebook, at primesportsworld.com. Our Prime Sports World Facebook page. Please go check out that video where we gave basically our opinion on how that all went down and what we opinion on the ruling on the Deshaun Watson was. But we have 4 teams left, 3 after today to get through before we have to get through. Try to preview every single team in the National Football League. Today, it's the Seattle Seahawks in the 2022. I'm, of course, your host, and David On Point. I should be joined here shortly by CEO of Prime Sports World, Mr. Israel Rivera. Should be joining us here very, very shortly. If you're looking for consistent content on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you've come to the right place. Prime Sports World goes basically live every single day, bringing the most up-to-date content. We are currently doing our 32 teams to review every single team in the NFL, talk about their season, talk about their draft, talk about their free agency. So if you have a fan of a particular team in the NFL, we have probably done your team. The only teams we haven't done are the Rams, 49ers, and Arizona Cardinals, and obviously Seattle, who we're doing today. And if you are a Seattle Seahawks fan, I have dropped the StreamYard link into our main Prime Sports World Facebook page. So please go check that out. So if you want to go talk to us about some Seattle Seahawks football and give your opinion on what they're going to be like this season, I would very much appreciate your contribution. Now, right on time, Mr. Israel Rivera, CEO of Prime Sports World, man. Welcome into the show, man. What's up, buddy?
The Seattle Seahawks aren't going to be that good. Okay, done. That was funny.
I mean, you're not wrong, but we do have a lot of things to discuss when it comes to Seattle. So let's talk about first their season as a whole before we get into storylines that we're going to talk about each individual. So what do you think they're going to be like this season? Like, do they have any bright spots? Like, I mean, their wide receiving core should be one of the best in the league still. DK Metcalf, they said they re-signed to a long-term extension this offseason, and they have Tyler Lockett, who's a really good football player.
I mean, obviously they're just like every other kind of team, like every other team that like lacks a franchise quarterback. They're in that sweepstakes, right? They're probably going to be in the top 5 picks, top 10 picks. I'm pretty sure they don't want to be that competitive. Now that there's some vets on that roster like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I expect one of those guys to possibly be, I don't know, maybe I was expecting one of them to be moved this offseason.
Yeah, I do not think that's going to happen now.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Sign DK Metcalf, and I don't think Tyler Lockett can be traded even until next offseason.
Yeah. So when I look at this, the bright spot, I think that the wide receiver core, and then they have a bright young running back in Kenneth Walker from Michigan State. Other than that, I mean, their defense is young.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Let's talk about these storylines. So, end of an era. Russell Wilson traded to Denver. So, what happens now? What happens now with this team? Russell Wilson was kind of the holdover from like those old Legion of Boom era Seattle Seahawks teams, the team that went to back-to-back Super Bowls. The Marshawn Lynch teams. Now he's no longer there. So, what does that mean for this team as a whole? Like, what happens now?
What happens now is, you
can kind of take both these two storylines kind of as together as one. Do you think this is the last ride for Pete Carroll as well?
I've been saying that. I've been saying that for the last year and a half. I've always said he has nothing to prove. He's won a championship at every level. I fully expected him to take a front office role. I'm pretty sure the Seattle Seahawks wouldn't be. They wouldn't turn him down on that, offer or whatever the case is. They wouldn't. They gladly probably offer him a front office role. But I just think, it's the end. The Legion of Boom was kind of decimated piece by piece over the years, right? As they got injuries, got older. Cam Chancellor. It kind of started with Cam Chancellor, right? When his career ended, with the injury, and then just kind of down.
Earl Thomas basically lost his mind, basically.
Then Richard Sherman got injured and was disgruntled. And then, that whole offense, the defensive line was just getting dismantled piece by piece. And then, Russell Wilson was just kind of, was kind of there by himself, right? And then, Chris Carson retires, after having the myriad of injuries last season.
Yeah, a major neck injury, basically.
Major neck injury.
Yeah.
So this whole, and it's not saying that he was part of the Super Bowl teams, but he was an extension of that, right? He was
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the guy to take. He was kind of that workhorse
And
running back.
when he was healthy, he was a very good running back.
Oh yeah,
Like
he was.
I know me and TJ kind of had this back and forth like a season ago where like talk about like Chris Carson didn't play in the playoff game, and like I kind of downplayed his impact, but Chris Carson was a good football player. Let's not pretend like he wasn't a good player.
No, he was a good player. He was a good in between the tackles runner, a good blocker out, in pass protection. So yeah, without Russell Wilson, this team is, they've lost, their franchise quarterback. They don't have that. Drew Lock and
Geno Smith and Jacob Eason are not the quarterback.
Whatever the case is, Geno Smith, those aren't the guys. So, like I said, this team is taking a whole different direction. At least they locked up their two wide receivers, in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, and they got a bright young running back in Kenneth Walker, who I think we've seen enough of Rashad Penny. He's got talent.
I mean, he showed some real flashes towards the end of last season when he got some real opportunity.
I've always said Rashad Penny's got talent. He just can't stay healthy.
I mean, he was a first-round pick for a reason. I mean, the dude's got talent, but he never really seemed to stay healthy up until the tail end of last season, where he put up monster numbers. So, like, if you own Rashad Penny, he probably won a fantasy title. Like, that's how good he was towards the end of the year.
And honestly, they have pieces, dude. I mean, Noah Fant, Will Dissly. Whenever before the injury, Will Dissly was he's a nice tight end. So they have some guys that can really that are some playmakers across this offense. The offensive line is a work in progress, to say the least.
Yeah, for real.
And they have the defense is young and inexperienced, and they don't have a franchise quarterback. So I don't expect this team to be good. This is a Seattle team that's in a rebuild, total. I wouldn't say total rebuild in terms of.
No, it's a total rebuild. There's no way. There's no way to. Let's not sugarcoat it. They don't have the key pieces at key positions. And I mean, imagine Jamal Adams trade will be somewhere down the line here. Like if he gets traded by the deadline, it wouldn't shock me if he got traded. Same thing with Quandre Diggs. I know they just gave him the franchise tag, I think, but I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to trade him as well. I think me and TJ and you guys have been talking about this for maybe a couple seasons now. Like this should have been the last ride of Pete Carroll for a while now. Like he should not have still been the head coach of this team even last season. And TJ always talks about like it feels like the Seattle Seahawks basically chose Pete Carroll over Russell Wilson, which I don't think that was probably the best decision as a franchise. If you have a franchise quarterback, you probably should try to keep him happy. You can replace Pete Carroll. He's already run his course in that franchise. As for what happens next, I don't know. I mean, this is a team that's been carried by Russell Wilson the last few seasons. Like the only reason they were even relevant was because of Russell Wilson. And now he's no longer on that roster. I'm not sure what they do at this point. They probably tank for, one of the two guys, either the kid from Ohio State or the kid from Alabama. See if they can get Bryce Young or what's the other guy? JG Stroud?
Yeah, CJ Stroud, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I look at this paper. I mean,
the deep quarterback class.
Yeah, so, I mean, the kid from the Levi, the kid from, was it Duke?
No, he's from Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky. Kentucky.
Yeah, he's from Kentucky. Yeah. And then you have Anthony Richardson from Florida. You still have we don't know what Spencer Rattler's going to be from South Carolina. There's a myriad of quarterbacks, and then there's always that one dark horse quarterback. I just named 4 or 5. There's always that one dark horse.
There is potential that they think 5 quarterbacks will be drafted in the first round next year in next year's draft. I mean, the kid that was at USC that transferred to wherever he went, he was like projected to be a first round pick last season if things had gone well.
Who'd you say?
The Peyton Slovis, I think his name is, or something like that.
Caden Slovis, Slovis, yeah. He throws too many picks for me, but obviously, they're in the rebuild mode. They're total redirection. I could spin it however I want, but yeah, they are in a rebuild mode. Even though they kept some key pieces, not worthy enough to make the playoffs or even compete in this division. And then I do kind of agree with you on them picking Pete Carroll over Russell Wilson. I think they more or less valued, Pete Carroll's ability because he does have some kind of front office power. Isn't he there? He makes a lot of decisions, right? Is he there? I don't believe he's not their GM. Is
I
he?
don't think he's their GM, but I
He makes a
don't.
lot of those decisions in terms of building the team. More than a lot of coaches do in the league. Probably like other than Bill Belichick, obviously.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, I think they
Actually,
value.
he is the executive vice president, I think.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
executive price. So he does make a lot of the football decisions.
Yeah. So they picked his mastermind over. They picked his mind over the talent of Russell Wilson.
But I think this is a wrap for him. I think this will be his last season as least as the head coach. I think they'll be an executive for the foreseeable future.
They could have kept both sides happy, in my opinion, David, if they would have just said, Pete Carroll, we're going in a different direction as a coach, but we want to keep you in the front office, and we want to keep Russell Wilson as a franchise quarterback. I don't know how those discussions went down. I don't know if Russell Wilson was okay with that. We'll see.
Yeah, but let's talk about this roster as a whole. On there, is this the worst roster on paper in the entire league? Like, can you looking at their offensive line is a mess. I mean, their defense, this probably will be the worst defense in the league. I mean, their secondary is a mess. Trey Brown, Sidney Jones, the fourth is their second starting corners. Justin Coleman, who's been bounced around the league a little bit. Artie Burns, who's also bounced around the league, is going to be one of their slot guys.
Yeah, a lot of guys that have gotten burnt.
I know you're a big fan of Nwosu, the kid from the Chargers that came over here. Shelby Harris, I think, was some piece they got in the Russell Wilson trade. But if you look at this roster on paper, man, this is a rough roster, and in my opinion, I think this is the worst roster built from top to bottom in the entire league. They're outside of the wide receiver position where you got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. I don't love any. I think I'd almost rather have Houston's roster. At least they have.
At least they have Davis Mills.
Oh, stop! Shut up!
You know what? I've been called crazy a lot on the show, but I'm gonna stand pat on Davis Mills. I think he's gonna be a really good quarterback in this league. They just need to build pieces around him. But anyways, yeah, I think outside of other than like Houston, this roster is pretty brutal. I've named the pieces offensively. They have some bright spots on the offense, but defensively, they're not. They're young. They're inexperienced. They got a lot of guys that bounced around the league. They have, and the offensive line is a mess as well. And the quarterback is a mess too. So this is a team that it's like what I want to say. Like for example. If we started what's that called when they when a new team comes in, like a supplemental draft,
an expansion team?
This is like an expansion team roster, in my opinion. This is an expansion team roster. So yeah, this team.
I mean, if you're waiting for me to argue, man, it's gonna be a while.
No, it's not.
They're like Jamal Adams is the only bright spot on their entire defense. I mean, Quandre Dix is a fine player, but I mean, Jamal, I'm surprised they haven't tried to flip him for something decent because they gave up a bunch of real good assets to get him, and then this is the worst roster in the NFL. Like I can't outside of the wide receiver position. I was like, every team has one position where they're particularly strong in, but like their offensive line outside of Charles Cross, like everybody else is just not good at all. Their defense is a real work in progress outside of Jamal Adams. Jason Myers is a pretty good kicker. I mean, they have that going for him.
He's a consistent piece. He's a consistent piece. I wouldn't say he's anything. Yeah, you're right, David. When you look at the kicking spot, I guess whatever.
I mean, I do like their. I don't hate their running back room. Rashad Penny is a decent running back. Kenneth Walker, the second or third, as you mentioned in earlier shows, could be somebody who develops into a good running back.
Yeah, I think Kenneth Walker will be a good running back. I mean, even when he was his days at Vanderbilt, before he transferred to Michigan State, he was a pretty good running back. He had double-digit touchdowns at Vandy too in the SEC. So, I like Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to be a solid guy. I think he's kind of like one of those short, compact, fast. In between the tackles, can go outside as well. In a way, like kind of what they had before with Thomas Rawls. Remember when they were kind of transitioning a little bit? I got to see Thomas Rawls a lot up close back in college when he was at Central Michigan. So So anyways, this roster's not that good. And you're right. I do like DJ Dallas isn't a bad running back. He's a serviceable guy. Trevor
Howard too, third down back. Can catch the ball out of the backfield. Yeah, I mean
the tight end room's solid too. Noah Fant's a solid piece.
If he can stay healthy,
if he can stay, he's a solid piece along with. It's just the quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. We know what Drew Lock is. We know what Geno Smith is, and we know what the hell Jacob Eason is. Well, kind of don't because he hasn't.
He hasn't really played, but he's been bounced around the league. Nobody seems to want to keep him around, so it's kind of a sign that it's not that good.
This is an expansion team roster.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Let's go into this draft, swing into the draft. So first round pick, they used Charles Cross, defensive tackle, Mississippi State. And then it took Boye Mafe, linebacker out of Minnesota in round 2, who had some first round buzz on him. Kenneth Walker III, as we mentioned, running back out of Michigan State in the second round as well. Abraham Lucas, offensive tackle, Washington State. Kobe Bryant, quarterback out of Cincinnati. Tarek Woolen, quarterback out of University of Texas, San Antonio. Kind of steal where they got him at round 5. I think he had like round 2 grade on him, that he fell all the way to the 5th round. Tyreek Smith, defensive end at Ohio State. Bo Melton, wide receiver out of Rutgers. And Derek Young, wide receiver out of Lenore Ryan. They took wide receivers at back-to-back picks in the 7th round. What do we think about their draft?
I actually like their draft. They went and got a good tackle out of Charles Cross. He was one of the better probably one of the best tackles in the nation. Definitely athletic. Boye Mafe, I saw a lot of him at Minnesota. He can really get after it. He's going to be a good pass rusher for them.
4.53 in the 40. 15 tackles for loss. 15 tackles for loss. Basically 16 tackles for loss. 12 sacks in 2 years. So 6'4", 261. So
speed kills. Definitely speed kills. And then when I look at they addressed the offensive line. Didn't see much of Abraham Lucas, or I don't really pay attention too much to the offensive line. I mean, I do and then I don't. Maybe the top tier guys. I didn't see much Washington State. They play too late. I said everybody right. They play too late. But Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, those are good picks in the 4th and 5th round because those guys have some potential. I mean, those guys are guys that can turn into starters that make contributions. And this is where you talk about keep Pete Carroll in the front office. They know how to draft well. I mean, they've drafted well in the past. They've drafted well in this draft, in my opinion. They kind of attacked every single need that they had. They needed need at tackle. They needed depth at tackle. They needed that next running back. They needed a jump start at the pass rush. They needed cornerbacks badly because they don't have them. And then when I look at the kid from Ohio State, Tariq Smith is another guy that can pay some dividends as well for them. And then the last 2 guys are I always say the 7th round picks, if they're good enough, they may make some headline, they may make some headway and steal some snaps from some guys. But those guys are probably practice squad guys. Guys that
Bo Melton 4.34 in the 40-yard dash.
That's fast.
4.40 for Young in the 40-yard dash. If you remember, Woolen had the fastest combine 40-yard dash at a 4.26 in this year's draft. The kid out of University of Texas, San Antonio, 6'4", 205 with a 4.26. 40-yard dash is wild. Like that is a really good corner, like a big corner with some speed. Like that's how they should be built. So
the thing I like about the kid from Ohio State is he was a starter. For them, he had 41 games that were he basically had 17 starts. He started most of last season, so he played the most of his college career. He played a lot of snaps for Ohio State. He played in a lot of big games. So that's a kid, and he's 6'3", 250 something. So he projects to be an outside linebacker. I expect him to make the team and be a depth piece for them. I mean, only 7 sacks in 4 years at the defensive end position. So that's not exactly the production you're really looking for. No, but I mean, we talk about the kid that Baltimore took. Was it 2 years ago now? They had no sacks in college and has been a monster in the NFL. Oh, look at the kid. Yeah, the kid. Or him, or the kid from Penn. Yeah, like those guys. Sometimes they just they get to the National Football League because it's easy to block
because you don't have to worry as much about people on the other side. So you could double team people like a Tyreek Smith and not have to worry as much. I mean, not as much because he had Chase Young, there recently, but yeah, the dude had a lot of starts. He played in 41 college games in his college career. Like,
he had 17 starts. He was mostly a starter last year. Oh, and I'm gonna say this about fast wide receivers in the draft, and then we can move on. I was watching a video of Khalil Shakir from the Buffalo Bills rookie wide receiver from Boise State, who I think is going to be a good wide receiver in this league. And he was, talking to Terrell Owens, T.O., and he was on some podcast, and he was like, it's about the illusion of speed. Some guys, there's only a handful of guys that got like straight great speed that can make a crazy cut and run a good route. But there's a lot of guys that are just stupid fast and that can't run routes and can't get in and out their cuts and can't be effective. And it's all about the illusion of speed as a wide receiver. And when I look at a guy like a Bo Melton, I look at some of these guys that can run 4.3s. Like, remember back in the day, like the kid guy from UCF, that Rashad Perriman. He can run like Forrest Gump out the stadium, fast as heck, outrun everybody, but he can't run around a route for his life. Marquez Valdez-Scouting can run like crazy, can run fast, but he can't run a route for his life. He doesn't have the illusion of speed. So it's like these fast guys that come in the league, we can't really, it's already like, they explained it. It's like the DB already has a disadvantage. They're already in a back pedal. You don't really have to necessarily burn them and run the fastest 40. You just have to have the illusion of speed and know when they're opening up, when to make your cuts. So when I look at a guy like Bo Melton, 4.3, 40, he might be a good wide receiver. Maybe. I didn't really see it at Rutgers, but I think he can be a special teams guy, for them.
100%. Moving on from there, we got the free agency / roster shakeup. So notable additions, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Nwosu. Departures, Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner, Dwayne Brown, Gerald Everett, Chris Carson, all big contributors to what was the playoff team, basically every season except for last year in the NFC West. What do we think about their roster shakeup? This is what happens when
it's catastrophic.
Bobby Wagner, probably the best player maybe in the history of the franchise. I don't know if that's even
Dwayne Brown.
Dwayne Brown, a real good, left tackle who's been there for a long time.
Gerald Everett, solid tight end. Chris Carson retired due to neck injury. Russell Wilson, we already know, franchise quarterback, probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And then you pick up Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Nwosu from the Chargers. Yeah, man, this is an F. Man, I don't know what to say about the Seattle Seahawks.
So they re-signed Quandre Diggs to a 3-year, $40 million contract to play safety for them, 29 years old. They also re-signed Quentin Jefferson to a 2-year deal as a defensive tackle. Al Woods re-signed with them. Artie Burns, they signed to a 1-year deal. They re-signed Sidney Jones IV to come back as well. Yeah, so, Kyle Fuller. All guys
that were getting burnt last year.
Kyle Fuller, the center, not the corner.
The other Kyle Fuller.
The other, he's going to be their starting center. Will Dissly got re-signed to a 3-year, $24 million deal.
I like that
$8
deal.
million. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not
a bad deal. And I'm pretty sure they have a team option on him. I'm pretty sure.
They brought back Rashad Penny on a 1-year deal.
That's not a bad deal either.
They brought
Rashad Penny on a 1-year deal just to kind of, be possibly, just either be a lead back. I expect Kenneth Walker to be the lead back. I think the start of the season, I think Rashad Penny's going to get every opportunity to be the lead running back for this season. We'll see at camp because they will be competing.
But obviously their free agency is not ideal, but this is what happens when you
rebuild.
Yeah, we rebuild. You're going to lose when you decide to pull the trigger. And for years, Seattle's kind of been on the cusp of being a borderline playoff team and not really good enough to compete for a Super Bowl, but not bad enough to really get anywhere it's productive in the draft. This is how you shake it up. You got to trade away best players and let your franchise cornerstones walk. Bobby Wagner, Dwayne Brown. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson. This is definitely, like I said, like we both said, we've been reiterating, this is a total rebuild. And yeah, this is an F, David Henderson. Yeah, you're right. It is an F. It is an F free agency, and that's exactly what you're going to get when you're looking to, basically tank next year. And you're basically saying, hey, we're going to tear this thing from the ground up, and we're going to build it back up to where it was.
I mean, they already started with the draft. I mean, they had a pretty solid draft. Like, I know you said that Seattle usually drafts well. I can make the argument they don't usually draft well at all. I mean, they took Rashad Penny in the first round. They took that linebacker in the first round 2 years ago. None of those guys have panned out. This is a team that's drafted so, in my opinion.
We could say recently, but I mean, if you look at like, you know, when they drafted Russell Wilson 3rd round, they drafted all those guys from the Legion of Boom pretty much. You know,
okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm talking about. But I mean, yeah, they have. Are you gonna miss? Yeah, you're gonna miss on some guys. They think Rashad Penny was gonna be an injury-prone running back. He still got a lot of talent. Who's the linebacker that you're talking about?
Jordan Brooks, I think.
Is it Jordan Brooks?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I haven't heard of him, he hasn't done anything. I haven't. I'm sorry, but anyways. Recently.
Yeah, Jordan Brooks was a first round pick in 2020.
Yeah. No, he's got time. He's still got time. Recently, yes, I will agree with you, David. Like Pete Carroll has missed and whiffed on some guys, and that's why I think but he didn't miss on DK Metcalf, right?
That's true. They
didn't miss on DK Metcalf. They didn't miss on Tyler Lockett. That's who they drafted to. So, you know, like I said, dude, this is a total rebuild. They're gonna rebuild it from the ground up. We'll get to the schedule. They're not gonna be that good.
No, their schedule. They're
gonna franchise quarterback, and I'm gonna be completely 100% with you. Out of the 5 guys that we mentioned in the beginning of the franchise, you know, the quarterbacks, you know, the kid. I don't really trust the kid from Kentucky. I only trust 2 quarterbacks, and that's the kid from Ohio State and the kid from Alabama, Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. And then the 3rd quarterback that I trust, who was in a doghouse early, didn't have a good deep, you know, I'm going to have to put some trust into Spencer Rattler. We'll see how he is this year at South Carolina, how he plays in the SEC. But that's a guy that, you know, if they draft him, if he's like a late first rounder and they can go get say Will
Anderson.
Will Anderson from Alabama. They can probably draft Spencer Rattler. I think that would be ideal for me as a Seahawks fan, because you're getting a first round type of grade of talent. I like Spencer Rattler to be like a similar type of Russell Wilson type of quarterback.
I'm a big Spencer Rattler fan. I thought the hate on him was ridiculous.
Super hate. Yeah, a lot of hate. And you know, I'll get into Spencer Rattler on the college football show. But you know, he just didn't get a fair shake last year. Lincoln Riley got his guy, you know. You know, and he wanted to roll with his guy, and that's what happened. They put the blame on him, and it's not like, you know, in that Texas game.
I mean, Spencer Rattler didn't lose a game up to before that point. So,
in that last season. So yeah, but anyways, yeah, I like Seattle's and move for a quarterback. It just depends on where they finish in the draft. If they go number 1 overall, you know, hey man, you know, they got some decisions to make.
I would still take Will Anderson over any of the quarterback prospects in this draft.
I will with TJ on that too. I mean, it depends on what.
I mean, drafting a quarterback will not solve all of the problems that this team has.
David, if Jacksonville is number 1 overall again,
yeah, they're taking Will Anderson.
Okay, so but why the hell are they going to be number 1 overall again? Shouldn't they be getting better?
I mean, sure, but let's jump into their schedule. David Henderson makes a good point. Let's start to predicting some games here. First game of the season, they go to Denver. Comes there. Russell Wilson gets to have his revenge in Week 1 of the 2022 NFL season. Yeah, they lose to Denver, 100%. There's no way.
Yeah, they lose to Denver. I picked this. It's a loss. It's gonna be a lot of L's here.
Yeah, for sure, it's gonna be a lot of L's. I think when I was looking at this when I was building this little graphic, I think I have them winning like 2 games. So
yeah,
it might be.
It's gonna be an L at San Francisco. They're gonna get swept by the whole NFC West.
I agree with you on that. So they go to San Francisco. I think they lose to San Francisco, and then I think where things get interesting, I think potentially is when Atlanta comes to town. So I think if Seattle's going to get a couple,
they're going to lose this game too.
I'm going to have them beat Atlanta. I think Marcus Mariota is still going to be the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons at this point, but I just don't believe in the wide receiving core could give this Seattle Seahawks a team enough fits to really push them. And I think on the other side, I think Seattle's offense will do just enough to beat Atlanta. I'll have them get their first win of the season. He'll go to 1-2.
Oh man. All right, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll give them Atlanta. I'll give them the Atlanta game, but I'm not really too sold on that.
I'm not sold on it either, but I think if they're going to get a win, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
Moving on, they go to Detroit, take on the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff going back into the NFC West, take on one of a familiar foes in the Seattle Seahawks. How do you see this game shaking out?
They lose. Detroit wins that game. Seattle loses that game.
I agree with you on
Detroit's a lot. This is one of the games that Detroit wins. In my opinion, they look at that. When at the beginning of the season, when you pencil in wins and losses, you're like, okay, this should be a win for us in Detroit. Seattle's not better than Detroit.
I agree with you 100% on that. Yeah. Then they go to New Orleans and they get smacked in the mouth.
They get smacked.
They get beat by that defense in New Orleans, and they probably get chased out of the building in that
They
game.
get chased out of the building, dude. They Drew Lock, and they're gonna go between Drew Lock and Geno Smith, and they're probably gonna throw a lot of picks between each other. Yeah.
And then they go Arizona. The Arizona Cardinals come to town. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show. Yeah, I got them getting swept by every team in the NFC West. Yeah. This is no different. 1-5. Going into a road game against the Los Angeles Chargers, who might be the best team in the AFC. I think they take another L. I said might be.
Okay.
I mean,
I heard that. Whatever.
They're not the best team in the AFC, but they might be.
They might be. You're infatuated with them. This was good. Probably. Let me see. This might be one of their worst losses that they take this season, in my opinion.
No, dude, they're gonna take a bunch of more. I mean, it might be. But
this is gonna be like a 40-point loss.
Yeah, I think they got a couple other 40-point losses up in the pipes here. The next one, the New York Giants come to town, and as much as I don't believe in the New York Giants, I believe in the Seattle Seahawks even less. So let me have them get beat by the Giants at home.
No, they are gonna get beat by the Giants. Honestly, when I look at the Giants, they're kind of where Detroit was last year. They're gonna be talented. They're gonna be competitive. And they can beat the Seattle Seahawks. I'll give Detroit. I give New York the W here.
I'm giving it 2-2, and then they get to play 2 games in a row on the road. First they go to the Big Toaster in Arizona, and then they go to the Pirate Ship in Tampa Bay.
Brutal.
And they come out of there with 2 L's. That Tampa Bay game might be their worst loss of the season, where they just get run out of the building by Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 1-9.
I think at this point. Pete Carroll's gonna start pulling Tony La Russa's. He might start falling asleep on the bench. No, I'm just playing. The 2 losses here, man. This is not a good season so far. 1-9. DK Metcalf is he stopped running routes and stuff. Tyler Lockett's probably hurt at this point. He's like, just shut me down. I want to get traded.
And then after the bye week,
they trade Adams at this point.
I think whoever the trade deadline, they'll be.
He's done. Traded. Yeah, he's done.
And then Las Vegas, the Raiders come to town to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, I think they take another L here.
This is where Devontae Adams has like 200 receiving yards.
Yeah,
that's one of his best games of the year.
And then they go to the Rams into the gauntlet that is the rest of the schedule going down the stretch. They go to the Los Angeles Rams into SoFi Stadium, and they take another L to 1-11.
They're gonna get smacked up by this. Is gonna be another 40-point loss.
And then the Carolina Panthers come to town, and I think this is where they get their second win of the season. I think this game was in Seattle. I would probably take the Carolina or in Carolina. I would take the Panthers, but I'm going to give Seattle the edge here just because it's at home. I'll have them at 2 to get the second win there against Seattle.
No, I got them losing to Carolina, man. Baker Mayfield. A lot better than
if Baker Mayfield's even the quarterback at this point.
Come on now. Come on. You think Sam Darnold's going to take it over?
I mean, maybe. PJ Walker might be taking snaps at this point.
It depends on what their record is. But no, I think Carolina's a better team than Seattle.
It's close. And then the last 4 games of the season, they go. San Francisco comes to town. They go to Kansas City, and they have 2 home games against the Jets and at the Rams. Do they win any of them?
They beat the Jets. They lose every other game.
I'm actually going to predict them lose all 4 of those games. I think the Jets, what the Jets have done in this offseason, what they look like on paper right now, they look like one of the more improved teams in the NFL. So I got them losing all 4 of these games to wrap up the season. They lose to San Francisco. They lose to Kansas City. They get shellacked by Kansas City. They lose a close one to the Jets, and then they lose to the Rams also at home.
They get smacked at home by the Rams. You know what? That Rams game.
And thank you to my cousin for the shout out. That's my cousin. Oh,
awesome. Yeah. You know what? Honestly, David, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, don't be mad. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams don't sit out everybody because they have such a big lead. They're probably going to be the number one team in the NFC, have number one seed locked up. They're not going to play anybody. Seattle might win that game.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities, especially if they have
I'm
everything
just going to
locked
predict
up.
it as a loss, though, too, though.
I'm gonna predict that the Los Angeles Rams still have stuff to play for. I love you too, cuz I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm gonna predict that the Los Angeles Rams still have stuff to play for, and I think they star other players because the Packers are gonna have a good record, or the Vikings, whoever you have predicted in the NFC North, and the Tampa Bay is gonna have a good record.
12 wins.
Yeah, so I think they're going to need to win every game they can. But yeah, I have the Seattle Seahawks finishing the season at 2-15.
Me too.
This is kind of the stuff we talked about at the beginning of the show. Like, this is a rebuild, and like, yeah, this team's going to stink, but like, it's all more about the process than it's got to be more about the destination than the process. And if you're going to rebuild, this is how you got to do it. You got to.
So this is how you know. This is how you know we didn't have much to talk about with Seattle. David ran the show for 10 to 15 minutes, just background music. And we only wasted about 30, 35 minutes. Usually these shows go for an hour with us talking because we have stuff to talk about, right?
Yeah.
We don't have much to talk about with Seattle. They're not going to be that good, man. They're a 2-15 ball club. And there wasn't much storyline to go around it. I mean, Russell Wilson was disgruntled. We knew that from last year. He's on a whole new team.
The Pete Carroll situation is constantly something that needs to be talked about. But yeah, this roster is not talented. They don't have the pieces, and this is the way it's going to be until.
And at 2-15 will get you a top 3 pick. And I don't see any other team like if Jacksonville wins 2 games next year. I mean, they have to reevaluate Trevor Lawrence.
I agree with you, and I think they need to reevaluate everything they've been doing, basically.
But honestly, I can't say that because honestly, in a way, I can't say that. And I bet if TJ was on here, he'd be like, "Yes, you could. Yes, you could. Yes, you could." But the thing is that okay, I'm gonna give Trevor Lawrence kind of the benefit of the doubt because that Urban Meyer situation was a train wreck last season. So if this year should be a little bit better. If he doesn't do well, I mean, let's just chop it up, and you got to give him another year. But also, I don't see Houston. I see Houston winning at least 4 or 5 games. Yeah. The Giants and the Jets winning at least 5 games. So
the Giants are going to win. The Giants are going to win a few games here and there.
Seattle is just by far the worst team in the league, and Pete Carroll and those guys know it. So they have a lot of decisions to make. They're probably going to get the number 1 overall pick, and they have some decisions to make. Do we go with Bryce Young? Do we go with C.J. Stroud? Or do we go with the for sure guy in Will Anderson, a guy that's going to be like we've seen what Michael Parsons did with in Dallas. What kind of impact he made on defense. That's the type of impact, not even more, that Will Anderson can provide for that defense in the pass rush. And then you pair him up with Boye Malfe. That's a good pass rush. You're starting to build your defense back up, right? And then it's a deep quarterback class where you can get a quarterback late in the first round. You could trade back into the first round. You could probably trade Jamal Adams, get maybe a second or third, package that up, try and move back into the first or the early second. They got a lot of my rate of situations that they can do in next year's draft. I don't know how much money they have next year to spend. I don't know who likes to go to Seattle. It's not a bad city. It's not a bad market to play in.
No, it's not. So back to David Henderson, had a couple questions. So will we be doing a preseason breakdown of how the teams looked? Yes. We will be after when all of the preseason stuff is all in the books. We will be doing a winners and losers segment for the entire preseason. Teams that look good, teams that look bad. And Izzy will for sure be doing.
For sure. For sure. The college football, the first game of college football, I believe, is in a couple weeks here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so those shows usually run on Saturday. So
those shows usually run either Friday nights or I try to do them Friday nights because David and TJ like to do the crossover on Saturdays. Either Friday nights, and not this Friday night, but probably the following week we'll start that up because we're on the eve of college football. So watch out for that. And then
when it comes
teams picking in the NFL draft next year,
so here we go.
I don't have time for that bull crap.
Seattle, Houston, Jaguars,
and both New York teams.
No, I think Jets, and then probably.
Don't say Detroit.
No. I guess the Giants. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Let me reevaluate that. You kind of put me on the spot, but let me think. We'll eventually do a full season preview where we pick our teams that are going to have the first overall pick. We're going to pick MVP and stuff.
Maybe Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I had to win like 4 games when we did the season preview. So, yeah, it's for real a possibility. But, yeah, I've been David Huffman right there, CEO of Prime Sports with Mr. Israel Rivera. We'll be back here tomorrow to break down the San Francisco 49ers for you guys. You don't want to miss that content. David Henderson, we would love to have you on any show you're available for. Also, check your message requests because I messaged you earlier today, and check that out. But yeah, David Huffman, Israel Vera, Prime Sports World. If you're looking for consistent content, continue checking us out. Please like, share, and subscribe. Izzy, what we do hit the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen. Bringing the heat 24/7.
Bringing the heat, baby. Also, yeah, it's supposed to be like 103 degrees here in Fort Wayne tomorrow. So.
Woo!
Not looking forward to it.
Better go land the AC and go grab a 6-pack of Bud Light, baby.
Yeah, for sure. I'll see you later, buddy. Have a good night, man.
Everybody have a good night. Drink responsibly.
Yes, for sure. 100%.